Hi, folks. Larry here again. My pal Jimmy's back.
Hello, everybody.
For his fan club, Jimmy is back.
Hi, everybody. Did you miss me?
He did 2 or 3 other podcasts with some other people about a lot of that mob stuff. But
this is my home. This is my home. And if you like what you see, everybody, continue to watch. Please, you hit like, subscribe, ring that bell, and you'll always know when there's a good episode of my dear brother Larry, and I will be there. You'll be able to see it.
I have, there were 2 or 3 things I wanted to talk about today. But first I want to start off like this. I wish you all, and by the way, if everybody's wondering why I have dark glasses on, it's because the lights, they blind me. That's why I get yelled at all the time for not looking into the camera and looking down, because these lights are killers and they blind me. And I get headaches, and that's why the sunglasses. I'm not trying to look like a wise guy. I'm just an old, beaten down, grumpy man. That's what I am. And I'm just trying to not to get a headache.
As a jockey, you had blinding speed.
But I wish you all the best, happiest, healthiest New Year for all years, and I hope things go well. And just for an update, there's a couple of things. A couple of people asked me. I might be going to Los Angeles, maybe in a week or 2 weeks. My friends, John McCormick and Barry O'Brien, the writers for Law and Order, they're the ones that are doing my TV series. Both great guys. Barry wrote 30 or 40 major TV series, starting with Ally McBeal way back 30, 40 years ago, and all the way up to today. Major guy. And it's an honor having these people contact me to do this series. In fact, today I got another call from another producer in California that wanted to do the movie. So I have a couple of things in the fire, and so that answers a couple of questions. People are asking me, when is this going to happen? So it's going to happen, but it's a crazy business. I wanted to answer 1 or 2 questions first before we get to Jimmy. Jimmy has a bunch of things he wants to say. It's all built up for the 3-4 weeks he wasn't here. One guy wanted to know about, and this is an interesting question. He wanted to know about Mike Gagliardi and his owner, Beltrami, Louis Beltrami. And then he says also about he wanted to know about Beltrami and Dizzy. Dizzy was Beltrami owned a bunch of coal mines in Pennsylvania. Very, very wealthy guy. He used to fly in on one of them jet helicopters. And with him was a guy called Dizzy. And Dizzy was the guy, a dynamite guy, that used to blow up the mountain so Beltrami can get the coal. And Dizzy was probably 350 pounds of solid muscle, 6'5", big, bad guy. And he told me a story once. It's hard to believe, but Mike said it's true, that he had a problem at Pocono Downs racetrack. And Mike was racing there, and I think they wouldn't give Dizzy a license. And Beltrami had about 20, 30 horses, I think, with Mike. And very wealthy guy. And so was Dizzy. And for some reason, they barred Dizzy from the barn area. And what he did, he told me this story at the Meadowlands. And he called up the owner of the racetrack or the general manager of the racetrack, and he says, "Can you see your home from where you are at Pocono?" And the guy said, "Yeah, I could see it." He says, "Turn around and look at it right now," and right then, Dizzy blew the house up. Now, all you guys in Pennsylvania, you know if that story is true. I mean, the guy, he blew the guy's house up. Now, it's hard for me to believe, but Dizzy didn't lie. And he was when Mike got stalls at the Meadowlands, he got the whole barn, and he put Dizzy in front in the chair. Nobody can go in that barn. He was a real whack job. And the guy asked me, he says, "What stories do you know about Mike?" I said, "Well, if I told Mike stories, we'd be here for a month." In fact, if Mike was still alive, he'd sit right here, and he had unbelievable stories. Like I said before, between Mike and Benny Webster and myself, it'd be some movie. But anyway, I want to tell you about this guy. His name, he was a jockey, and his name was Eddie Donnelly. And he became a victim of the fat guy that I dealt with, Tony Schuler. And everybody knows the story that when Tony Schuler, when I was dealing with him and he was setting up all these races at Aqueduct and Belmont, he'd disappear for weeks at a time, and then I had to go through. Everybody knows that story, what happened. And on the days when he was running away, going to different racetracks so he wouldn't have to deal with me. And maybe it was because them days they couldn't get enough guys dead, or there was nothing. So instead of calling me and saying, "We got nothing today," he would just disappear. And he used to disappear up to Pocono, he used to disappear up, so all over the place. And one day, he gets a hold of this jockey, Eddie Donnelly, and I think I'm not sure. I think he gave him $800 to be worse out of the money. I think they were betting a trifecta race, I think, and Eddie had no choice. He's put in one of them spots where you got no choice. You try to bury yourself. Right. You just got no choice, and he run over the money. Well, Schuler met him after the races, and he says, "First of all, I want my money back if you survive this beating," and he beat the shit out of him.
Wow.
And Eddie wrote a book. I think the name of the book was Ride the White Horse. I should have it. I do have it because I think Eddie sent me one.
I saw it.
I had it. It was right here, and then it disappeared. Yes. I don't know where it is.
Well, don't look at me.
I wanted to tell this whole story, but it happened in, I think, 1974, and I forgot so much. But I had the book here, and I planned on talking about it, and I don't have the book. But he beat him so bad, and Eddie paid the money back, and he packed it in. He became a preacher.
Wow.
He just stopped riding. He didn't want to get involved in all that stuff. And he became a preacher, and he wrote that book, Ride a White Horse. I'm almost positive that's the name. And it was just to let you know the shit that I went through because of, and I still blame it on Tannenbaum. Everything I went through in my life, the scummy, rotten, bottom-feeding people I had to deal with just to stay alive because I owed the money to your pal. And the things I had to do and the people I had to deal with, it makes me want to punch myself in the face every time I think about it. Because not only that, but I have, I don't know how much I could say about this because I promised I wouldn't. I guess I could say it because there's a video out now. Tony Schuler was, I hooked him up with Con Erico. and that was my crew that went in and fixed all the races in New York, in New York, Belmont Aqueduct, Saratoga, and one or two other tracks. And they all got arrested after, I think in 75 or 76 in Conorico. The fat guy became a government witness, and the only one, and Con Erico was the link between the three of us. He never gave up nobody. He just denied everything. And but when he got out of jail, he made an audio. And the kid that works for me has the audio. And I think they're going to make a movie, so I can't say too much about it. But on that video, on that audio, he made an audio. On that audio, he tells of what went on, and he says one thing in there that I suspected a long time. There was a jockey that was found dead in his car off the Bell Parkway. And I'm not going to mention any names, but in that video, in that audio, he was talking about the beatings and everything that everybody got, and he says, and he wound up killing this guy. Now, law enforcement has it down as a suicide because they found this car with the exhaust pipe plugged up and everything. They said he died of carbon monoxide.
Right.
And I don't think he... But this was the scummy guy that Tony Schuler was. And just take advantage of everybody, share nothing, just a greedy guy. And that's what got him caught. And this poor guy, doing what he loved to do, ride, and he was a great jockey. And he packed it in because of the race fixing and all the nonsense that went on that I was basically a part of, but I didn't know about this until after the fact. And it just drives me crazy. Sometimes I wonder if I should have taken the fighter's advice and went into that movie with Pesci, Jake LaMotta, when he came up there with his wife Vicky and asked me to be in the movie because I had horses with Vicky's first husband, Jerry Haid. I should have went into that game because this game, after everything that I went through, and once again I'll say I did what I did to stay alive. I would have much rather went the legitimate route. I loved racing. That's all I wanted to do. And again, I blame it on Tannenbaum for everything that happened, cause and effect.
Well, you and I would have met if it was a Raging Bull because I was very close with Pete Savage. He wrote the book, Raging Bull, with Joseph Carter. And the movie was produced in association with Pete Savage. And Pete was very friendly with me. I got a lot of work at the time on Raging Bull. I got like maybe 4 weeks work at it. I did a lot of speaking parts, but a lot of it was left on the editing floor.
Yeah.
I was young. I was 19 at the time. But then I was also an entertainer because we were at the Copacabana doing parts, doing scenes from the movie with Joe Pesci. And about a year later, I wound up performing at the Copacabana. I used to imitate Elvis. I did Elvis all over the country.
You performed at the Copacabana?
Yes, 1980. October 24th, 1980. Yes.
You sure?
Yes, I'm sure. Yes.
I used to go to the Copacabana. I went there every night for about 2
My father was there that night. And the songs that he wrote, he made the DJ play on in between, before the show went on, music was playing. He went over and he forced the DJ to play his song that he just got done doing, which was very good with this artist. Bobby Curtis at the time was a black singer. that my father had, trying to get his career going with music that my dad wrote.
You know, your father, I listened to about maybe 20, 30 songs that your father wrote. And what's amazing is there were 2 or 3 of them that were excellent, really, really well. And from what I understand, he wrote them when he was in jail, and he did the music and everything over the phone.
Yes.
He was allowed 15 minutes a call, and he hooked up with the arrangement for 15 minutes. They were able to arrange. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
It's if your father was a different kind of guy. Your father, just so they know, was one of these old-fashioned mob guys that would do 100 years rather than rat on anybody or say anything. They just say nothing. His one comes from the same school as Franchise and all the old timers. But if he was ever to tell his story, and I tried to get him to do it. He almost threw me out of the house. But he has unbelievable stories. How the Broadway plays that he wrote and the songs that he wrote, and they were great. Right. And he did it all over the phone as far as the arrangements go.
Yeah, well, that's the only vehicle he had was the telephone. And just going back a second, again, that night at the Copa, there was a guy there named Sabine Turco or something, but they used to call him Turk. He was one of the main bouncers there at the Copacabana. I met him on the set of Raging Bull because he did some work there as an extra, playing a guy that worked at the Copa. And when I did perform there, he happened to be there that night, and then he was my particular bodyguard for the night too. Because at the time there was a young lady, her name was Glee, and that's the one who booked me there, who paid me and got me there to perform. And I did the Joe Franklin show about a week I think it was 10 days before I performed there. I went on the Joe Franklin show, and they had me on. I was pushing it. They brought my first wife on, and and she stole the show because Joe Franklin made her walk on. He goes, "No, come on, don't walk right in." And he goes, "What's the married name?" He puts the mic, and she's Debbie. She was Debbie DeMonica. She's hee. She giggles. Oh God, it was funny. But I'm sitting there. I was in my prime as a young man, big collars like Elvis and stuff.
I would. Your father would never do it, and I asked him to do it, and he didn't do it, and he didn't even want you to do it. But I would love to ask your father, because right now the top shows out there, there's 4 or 5 of them on YouTube. They're all with all mob guys that turned, and they tell these stories, and they're unbelievable stories, and obviously there's a big market for it worldwide, and they're making, some of them are making a lot of money. But I would like to hear, and so far the only one that's out there that's doing it is Joe from Pennsylvania.
Well, my father was away with him he was there 6 years. I think my father was there 8 years, but I think Joey Merlino was there like I think 4 or 5 of those years. He did with my dad, and
well, they say
that
he was the boss, the second in command in Philadelphia for forever. Then he went to jail for I think 8-10 years. He come back out. Now he's doing one. He's the only one I think that's doing one that was in the mob or part of the mob or one of the bosses. In fact, he probably had a higher position than Sammy Gravano.
But he never cooperated.
No. But I'd love to get somebody like your father on, or Sonny Franchise. He's dead, but have your father come on and just tell him what are you made of? What makes a guy take a 44-year sentence and not say a word?
Well, it wasn't 44 years in one term. He went away when I was 2 years old. He came home when I was 12, 9 years. Came home for 5 years, went away 6 years in Atlanta prison, federal, Atlanta, Georgia. Came home for 2, went away again 8 years where he was with Joey Merlino. Then came home for about another 5-6 years and did 17.
Yeah,
but the last 7 of the years I was with him. We were in the same cell together.
All right, but I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about like,
so it's 44 years.
He's in the same category as is Franchise,
Sure.
who I think at 80 years old was given 50 years, and he got out of jail when he was, I think, 101 years old and never said a word.
Right. At 90, he was sentenced to 10 years. At 90 years old.
Yeah, and I just, what are these guys made of? And that's what I would love to have your father sitting here, even though it never happened, and like try to explain it. Larry Mazza was on the show I did with Larry Mazza. And I didn't want to ask him because he was on so many shows and he wrote that book, The Life, which they're going to make a TV series out of it. It's a great book.
Yeah, but I have some reasons why my father got that tough. It's the system, what they used to do to you back then. He would be in solitary. It's not like solitary now. Back then, it was you're in complete darkness. Darkness. They just hand you a bucket. That's where you go to the bathroom. You don't eat nothing but bread and water for 3 days, and every third day you eat whatever they cook in this mess hall that night. You only get that one meal every third day. He was there for like 3 months.
Well, that's exactly.
I says, how do you do it, Dad, for 3 months? He says, well, you play games with yourself. You do this and just mentally strong. There's nobody stronger that I ever met, like that can handle that kind of punishment. And how they used to beat they tied him with handcuffs in a chair. They beat all the teeth out of his mouth.
My question is, I'd like to have him here or somebody like him to say why, how do you give up your wife?
Because you don't have no
kids?
respect for the law. You want to get them back when you get out. You know what he told me when we were away? I says, Pop, when you come home, you're going to be like 80s, 89 or whatever, 9. What do you want to do? Not 90. I said, you're going to be, it was like, he was 76 at the time. I said, when you come home, he says, what am I going to do? He says, I'm going to rob this whole country. I said, are you with me, son? He goes, I'm not going to work at McDonald's. And he's giggling, he's laughing. But he...
well, to me, that's it's sad. I don't want to say it's sick. It's I don't.
But
want
he
to say
meant it as a humorous thing.
No, I know that. I know what you just said was a joke. But what I'm saying is he did what he did. So did 2 or 3 other guys from the old school. They did what they.
No, but it is sad. You know, all the years.
You know what's sad about it? Let me tell you what's sad about it.
My mom had to suffer.
No, that's what I mean. You leave your kids, your whole family, and everything else. And not only that, but let's say your father had $500,000 in the street, Shylock money. Okay, he goes away for 30 years, 20 years, 7 years, 8 years, whatever. The money's gone. He comes back home because he's been in that life his whole life. No Social Security.
Have me I would be the one to pick up the...
Wait a second. Just let me finish. He has no Social Security. The money he had in the street is gone. People that own him private money, gone. Everything is gone. He has nothing. There's no insurance plan in the mob. There's no 401k in the mob. There's no nothing. You just and then because other people rat on you, I just don't understand how everybody don't turn. And that's why I wanted him here. What makes you just let people do whatever they want, say whatever they want to you, and you just take the...
That's what put him away. A guy took the witness stand. I went to school with the kid. I couldn't believe he was pointing the finger at my father and other friends of my dad, putting them away, stool pigeons. And then same thing with me. They put me away from stool pigeons. It was my wife's cousin.
Anyway, what I asked Larry Mazza was, because I didn't want to go through that whole thing because he's been on so many podcasts, and he has an unbelievable story. And it's a story that's going to be a TV series because what happened to him could never, ever happen in a million years.
Oh, I know.
Story.
Yeah, I know
that could never happen.
I know that part where you're talking about.
That puts him aside from everybody else that's looking to get a movie deal or anything else. He's the one. In fact, I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen this year. But during that interview, I asked him. I said, and I didn't know how he was going to handle this because I asked him just something like that. I says, how could you, was there ever a day when you were involved, because you're a sharp guy, a good looking guy, plenty of money, and ever a day that come and says, what the fuck am I doing? What am I doing here? I'm following the fucking leader. I gotta listen to orders, take orders. What am I doing here? I don't need this. Did that day ever come? And his answer to me was, he says, Larry, it creeps up on you. He says, it just creeps up on you. He says, every day you get a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and before you know it, you're really involved in everything. And then once you get involved, it's like great because, just like it cost me $100 every night to have a front table at the Concord, they get front table just because of who they are. Same thing at the Copa. I mean, I used to have to give Carmine and Tony Lip $100 to leave my car right out front, and another $100 for that big round table, one flight up the steps by the pole. Where them guys, they get whatever they want. They can walk through the kitchen just like in Goodfellas, and so I understand that part of it, but that part of it is gone now. I'm not going to mention any names, but I was with a couple of heavyweight people, and they 20 years back, they'd make a phone call and whatever they wanted done, it got done instantly. And 5 years ago, they make the same phone call, the guy won't even pick up the phone.
I know it's really just different now. It's different.
And I just don't get it. And yet, when I talked to your father, and I said, "What do you think about my situation?" Well, I didn't rat on these guys. You did the right thing. And by doing the right thing, I lost everything I ever worked for in my life. And when I asked the audience to respond, did I do the right thing by not giving up these 4 guys and losing millions of dollars, 7 homes, 100 horses in training, a whole training center that I owned and everything else? 95 of the responses were, I should have ratted on them. I should have just told the commission what they wanted to know.
But that's the public. They can't do time either. You did the right thing, though, because you did the right thing to yourself.
So you'll give me the same answer your father would give me.
Give me like me, I don't regret nothing. You know that already. No, there's no reason to. There's no reason to just make 100 families suffer and put 100 guys away and then ruin their wives' lives and their children's lives. That's what you would be doing. You're saying, gee, didn't your mother suffer and all that stuff? Yeah, right. So that's what you would be doing. You'd be putting people away and ruining their family by making their man go away. Look at it. So where's the difference? It's all.
I was 15 years old. I was 15 years old, 16 years old, getting a whole bunch of trouble, and on my own. Whatever I did by myself. I got in trouble by myself, got rich by myself, got poor by myself. Whatever I did by myself because I learned 15, 16 years ago. Even when, and it started when my friend Ronnie robbed a car. And he says, come on, let's go. He robbed the car around the corner. And I got in the car and I says, where you going? He says, oh, I want to go by the World's Fair. I said, I don't want to. What do you want to do over there? Let's go over here. And then I says, right now, I says, fuck this. I says, I'll rob my own car from now on and go where I want to go. I didn't like following the leader. And I don't understand. And this is what I told Larry Mazza. I don't understand how guys that are out there now, big, tough guys, get into the mob and have to hold a fucking umbrella for another man. Hold an umbrella like Sammy Gravano with John Gotti. Hold a fucking umbrella, and then after it's all over, you call yourself, I'm a man. How do you call yourself a man when you become a fucking mutt to another man? When you got to take fucking orders?
You know how much he was giving JG a week? $100,000. So look what Sammy was making. Holding umbrella is nothing. Look at the money they were making.
Okay, so now it's exactly what I told Larry Kadish. When I asked Larry Kadish for $200,000, I was building a house in the states of Inverary, and the guy come to me and says, I could build you an Olympic-sized swimming pool with a jacuzzi. I could put 3-dimensional shingles on the roof and have all your windows permanently tinted, whatever that is. He says, I could do it for cash. I'll do it for $250,000. So I said, okay. He said, without cash, it's going to be like 3/5, something like that. So I says, all right, do it. So I go and I had the stable account and everything else, and I probably could have had that much money in the stable account and everything else. But I call up Kadish, because Kadish owned banks, he owned High Rise. Kadish's a billionaire. So I call Kadish up. And I says, Larry, I says, can you send down 200,000, 300,000 into my account? And he says, what for that Mickey Mouse house you're building? Because he bought a big estate in Old Westbury and was building a farm there, and he's building a house for me because he put a bid in for. See, that's your mentality.
Yeah, right.
Okay, let me finish my story. He was put a bid in for Roosevelt Raceway. He's sure he was going to get it. He bought Old Westbury, the farm right down the street, built a big farm, and he was building a mansion on that farm for me. Okay? So he didn't want me to build a house. So he says, I'm not sending you the money. So what I did was I got a hold of Ali D. Simone. I says, you got 2 trucks here? He says, yeah. I says, get these horses. I think it was 18 or 20 horses, whatever it was. Bring them to his farm. I was in Florida. Bring him to his farm and turn him loose in Old Westbury. He brought him to his farm and turned him loose in the farm. Larry calls me up. He says, are you fucker? My God, horses running down Hempstead Turnpike and everything else. I says, let me tell you something, Larry. You want me to be a fucking mutt to you? I says, give me a check every week for 100,000 and write on the corner fucking mutt. Okay? So if you're going to be a fucking mutt, you got to get paid. So you just made a statement, Sammy was making X amount of dollars, so he became a fucking mutt. I can understand that. I could understand it. Because if Kadish would have sent me 100,000,
did you get the check every week?
He sent me the money back. He said, will you take my horses if I send you the money?
But you did it through fear, just like we do.
No. I don't do nothing through fear. The only thing I ever did through fear
he was afraid about losing horses.
Huh?
He was afraid about losing the horses. Right? Again. Wasn't he afraid about having that fiasco happen again?
Well, he wanted me to train his horses.
No, but in a way, it's having something over somebody. That's all it is.
It's fucking just be nice, just be kind. I just don't get that follow the leader bullshit. I don't understand
I was
how.
never like that,
and
man.
You know why I respected your father? Because your father, he could have been where Cabert was in charge. Gotti could have made your father instead of Cabert. Your father kept saying, go ahead. But he didn't take no orders. Everybody was scared to death of Cabert except your father.
Right.
Your father was the only one that can control him. Your father was the only one he never fucked with. And that's why I respect your father. All this other stuff I just don't understand. How a man can follow a leader, hold a fucking an umbrella up in the rain and walk behind the guy. I don't get it.
Not everybody does that, though. Not everybody does.
Good night, folks. We'll see you next week. Say good night, Jimmy.
Good night, everybody. Also, I love you. Me and Larry, he does love me. Remember, like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you can hear Larry holler at me.
Good night, folks.